The record deal. Previously the main goal of any musician, but how relevant are they today? This week we hear from Keith Armstrong, who co-founded Kitchenware Records.
This is Anyone Can Play Guitar, the podcast for musicians and music lovers that takes you behind the scenes of the music industry. This week is brought to you in partnership with MGR Music. Ever wanted to learn an instrument, hone your skills, or pick up something completely new? You can get so far by yourself, however professional guidance can make all the difference. With a network of tutors right across the UK and rates starting from as little as £15 per hour, visit mgrmusic.com now to get started. Hello and welcome to episode 45 with me, James, and him,
Ben.
Last week we covered festivals. Everyone loves festivals, Ben.
We definitely said that a few times.
Yes, we did. But it's not just us. Dave Cooney, the founder member of The Killers, also loves festivals.
I think I like that you don't get a sound check.
Yeah.
You just go up there and you just do it.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of an atmosphere of looseness.
We also covered festivals from the organisation side of things, James. Emma Zillman from The Fields, who books bands for major festivals such as Kendall Cole and Blue Dot, had this to say.
And really, as a booker, what I'm looking for is 300 people turned up to see us play last month. You know, I don't really mind about how many hits on Facebook you've got.
So now we've finished all of that Strongbow and the warm overpriced lager that comes with festivals. We now turn our attention to the business side of things and the record deal. So in season 1, we spoke to ex-label owner Pete Dale.
People could see the kind of stuff that we were going to put out on the label, and that meant that bands from around the country and from other countries started sending us demo tapes, and we could kind of pick and choose what we wanted to put out.
The majority of this season of Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast will be focusing on the DIY side of things. In the coming weeks we've got a series of episodes on releasing and marketing your own music, but before we do that, James, we want to quickly explore the value of the record deal, once the main goal for many a musician.
Well, that's it, yeah. DIY focus, but is there still value in the deal?
Depends on the deal.
Well, so this week we're starting with Keith Armstrong. So we've said co-founder of Kitchenware Records, great history of releasing music, the Lighthouse family, massive in the 90s and coming back.
They have sold out most of their tour, I do believe.
Well, so today Keith is still developing artists though through the label and also spends a lot of his time managing someone you've probably heard of, Jake Bugg.
I love Jake Bugg.
This all means that Keith has a great perspective on how the industry's changed and what works well today. So today you'll hear about the record deal, how it can be great, but also it's not always smooth running, as we hear from those chaps from We Are Scientists.
Get ready.
Hi, remember us? You put out our first record, now we're here to put out a second record.
Remember, a great way to support the show is to go on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and a review. It really does make a massive difference for the show. Now, on with the episode.
So let's kick off with Keith. What exactly are record companies and labels?
Well, it's kind of changed a lot, and it's especially changed in the last few years. I'm not even sure that a major record company is a kind of a huge machine that can take somebody from their kind of, in this way it hasn't changed that much, from the sort of aspirations and dreams and things they do when they start out and doing demos and now you can post and publish yourself quite easily. You can put your own music out to on Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. You can use SoundCloud. There's loads of platforms you can use to get your music out there. And what they'll do is they'll take somebody who's managed to get some kind of a following naturally and then take it to the next level. But it's a music business. So a record company is in the music business, and they're making money out of it. So it's not very. They're not really that well disposed to art. It's like a bit more commerce than art.
Yeah.
It's supposed to always be a mixture of both, but it depends how arty you're going to be, you know. So, and I think if you're a musician, you kind of have to be a bit realistic about that, you know. So, you know, if you were like, I don't know, John Coltrane or Throbbing Gristle or something, as opposed to, you know, Lewis Capaldi or Jake Bugg, it's like, it's a different, you know, you've got a different set of things. But record companies are just basically there to take music and sell to people in the most effective way and make money, and sell your records around the world and all the rest of it. What used to be a record label, they don't exist in the independent way as much as they used to, but they do in other ways. I think, you know, there's people get together and help each other put music out. Not quite in an old way. I think dance music still does it a bit more independently. There are some pretty healthy independent labels still around, like ourselves and Glassnote and people like that are trying to develop artists. So our thing is about artist development. Record companies, big record companies like Sony and Universal, are more about trying to sell records around the world, really. And you know, and this has always been the case. And I think for most people starting out and they want to know what do they do to get started, do they have to have, it used to be you had to have a record deal, you had to have somebody that would help you get your song made onto a record or whatever and get it out to people and get it distributed and all that. It's quite, and it was an absolute minefield. I mean, it took me years to figure it out, to be honest. And I worked in a record shop, so you know, I had a head start. So, but now I think you can, you know, people can self-publish. It's a lot easier than it used to be. But there's a big onus on using social media to promote your music. So you're always going to have that kind of slight skew between, some people aren't comfortable doing that. They're just comfortable being musicians. And the self-promotion aspect of it is not always natural to them. And you know, and I can completely understand that. So where a record label now I think would come into being is somebody that could help you make right decisions about your music in the first place, because you don't always know. So one of my jobs is I'm an A&R man, so you give me all your songs and I'd listen to them and say, well, that one's better than, you know. Now I've got a feel of what you're trying to do. I would say that this one's stronger than that one, and maybe you should concentrate on that, help you pick the right songs, because you might not know, you might just have a ton of songs.
There's also that sort of like emotional attachment to some songs, isn't there? Like this is the first song you wrote, which actually might be just garbage. And also,
but a lot of people treat their songs like kids, like you know, the sort of little ugly one. They want to protect that one more than the one that's like striding forth and you know on the football team. So like that's just human nature. And I've never met a songwriter yet that doesn't do that. So you kind of help sort that aspect out for them. And then you've got to kind of say, well, this one's got a better chance of being, I don't know, catching people's attention than another one maybe. So you're bringing in advice. So a record label can help you do that.
So Keith mentioned that record companies can help take bands to the next level once they've built up a bit of a following themselves. Neville Staple, the original Rude Boy, Ben.
Yes,
forget it.
More of that in the full episode from Nev.
Formerly of the Specials, echoes that statement and the importance for bands to learn their chops first, as well as record companies still bringing a lot to the table when it comes to things like distribution.
Also, because you've been in the industry for so long, I'm interested in the business side of it. I know you've got your manager here as well. But has the whole record company management side of it changed? I'm sure it's changed a lot in the last 4 years, but how much did they try to, well, did they probably try to influence your identity?
They definitely did try it, but if you know what you want to do, you fight on. But some bands couldn't do that. Plus, it's rather good. In the punk days, you used to get the managers ripping the bands off because the band just wanted to be doing music, and it's a lot different now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the record labels now they're there more as a platform of their knowledge and for particularly their knowledge of distribution. Because nowadays obviously anyone can just go online, put your music up and sell it. You know, sell it or share it or give it out as a freebie, whatever you want to do. It's at your fingertips now, isn't it?
Well, that's what's spoiling it down, this computer thing. but mind you, I'm still not up on computer. But that's
You're
what
not
is
bad.
set.
You're getting better. You see tweets and Facebook
That's
and all
about
that.
it.
Yeah.
But the computer now, online stuff is really cramping up the live music, and for new bands, it's kind of hard. I mean, you got this Simon Cowell thing. They make a hit for 3 months, and then that's it.
Yeah, everyone wants like an instant hit nowadays, which
You
is
can't
a
do
shame
that.
because you need to do your craft. You need to do the pub crawl. You need to do, go and do gigs that are going to not make you much money, but get you a little bit of a band fan base going, and build it up in your local area, then spread out to the next area and do your craft. But a lot of that doesn't happen now because everyone wants instant hits.
Instant hit, which is quite difficult nowadays. It's not like when I was a lad.
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah? It's not like when I was a lad, it was easier.
Yeah.
When I say easier, you could
still had to do all your
still had
long
to
haul,
do
didn't you?
your long haul. I mean, we were driving around in transit vans, up and down. We'd really worked on our craft, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But it was easier as in getting out there, and you made money easier when you did have hit records. You had that physical, something that people would buy, and some people just wanted to collect that next cover, that next album.
Yeah, but you lose that now because everything can just go online and get it.
Yeah, and just get it.
There's no rarities like.
Which is why touring's great.
Yeah.
That's where everything happens.
So everything happens on tour. If you haven't already, be sure to listen to our episode on touring, released just a couple of weeks ago, with some great insight from editors Justin Lockley and those cheeky chaps We Are Scientists. Neville also touched on physical releases though. Are they still relevant? Tune in next week for more on that. But sticking with We Are Scientists, they had an interesting experience with their record company. It can make it tricky if you're genuinely in another country. Between the second album, so with Love and Squalor, and Brain Thirst Mastering, he said there was kind of the bureaucracy of the business side of it when the record companies changed. How did that affect you writing? Did it change the sound at all? Did it make anything slower? I don't mean tempo slow. I mean like
Yeah, I think more than anything, that was the biggest effect it had on it, was that it made everything take a lot longer and just cost us a lot more money.
Okay.
Because, at the time we were signed to Virgin US, but we were doing much better in the UK. Mm-hmm. And so Virgin UK was very enthusiastic about us, but all the checks were being written by Virgin US. Then we ended up putting the record out on Astralworks in the US, which was a subsidiary of Virgin US. And it was just so many different people that were gatekeepers to greenlighting the album. Mm-hmm. We did things like meet other producers after we had already recorded most of the record, and those sessions came to nothing. We ended up finishing it with our original producer, who is now a way bigger producer than all the producers they made us waste a lot of time meeting with. It was just a lot of making other people feel like they were doing due diligence.
They're involved.
Yeah. And I can imagine that if our head of A&R had been the person in charge of the UK, it would have been a much more easy process. We had a much better relationship with everybody at EMI in UK because we saw them way more. We were here a lot. They were always really excited about different initiatives and our stupid ideas. So I think that sort of hindered it a bit because it was sort of us being gone from the US for a year and a half and then coming back and being like, hi, remember us? You put out our first record. Now we're here to put out a second record. Also, as a new president at EMI, and he was like, who the hell are you guys?
Some negatives there have been within the machine, particularly if you're part of a really big record company like they were. What they can bring with their global reach and distribution power clearly needs to be balanced against the amount of people who will want to have some level of say in what you're doing with your music and when it is that you're going to do it. Let's take a quick break before we get more of the pros and cons on record companies. This week is brought to you in partnership with MGR Music. Ever wanted to learn an instrument, hone your skills, or pick up something completely new? You can get so far by yourself, however professional guidance can make all the difference. With a network of tutors right across the UK and rates starting from as little as £15 per hour, visit mgrmusic.com now to get started.
Now it's time for our regular good cause slot. This week, as we're speaking predominantly to Keith Armstrong, let's go with Keith's choice.
Anything to do with mental health, especially with kids, and it's Mental Health Week this week, so anything to do with that. We have a charity that, we run through Jake, called the Robin Hoodie Foundation.
Right. That's quite good,
and we take money from if we put money in tunes in commercials or anything like that, we make them pay money into the Robin Hoodie Foundation, and then we spend it on youth clubs and buying kids from youth clubs that wouldn't, in deprived areas, getting them instruments and stuff that they couldn't normally get. So I'm interested in anything that'll promote kids that wouldn't normally get a chance to play music, have an instrument, have a whatever. I'm really interested in anything that does that as well.
So that's the Robin Hoodie Foundation, another great cause.
And great name.
Indeed. So now, on with the episode.
Right, getting back into it. And we have a new guest alert, James.
Excellent.
Louisa from She Drew the Gun. I caught Louisa at the Think Tank, a popular venue of ours.
Yes, it's becoming a regular jaunt.
It is. I caught her on Hit the North festival, which coincidentally is run by Keith Armstrong. There you go. Louisa and She Drew the Gun come from Liverpool.
Great city.
Yes. You may have heard of a couple of bands in the past.
They've got a bit of a musical pedigree, do they not?
Yes, they do. And in the early noughties, one of these bands were the Coral. A favourite of ours.
Another good band.
Yes. One of their hits was Skeleton Key, which more recently was used in the name to set up a record label to help out local talent on their journey. From Louisa's point of view, it's not so much the distribution side of things that she calls out as being key, or Skeleton Key. I couldn't help it. But having somebody knowledgeable who has been there and done it to talk to and ask the simple but most maybe daft questions to seek guidance on the best course of action, I think that's a really, really important
that's it, yeah.
thing.
There's one thing you might want to label to just get your music out there and use their network, but actually having a James Skelly or someone of that ilk who's been around and done it to a good standard and high level
standard.
Yeah. Great sounding board.
Definitely. And this really ties into the nurturing point that Keith's mentioned earlier. Now, the Think Tank has a reputation for this, and the sound check is in full flow, so bear with us on the background music. It's not too bad.
So, about that time you joined Skeleton Key Records.
Yeah.
How important is it to have that type of local, supportive company that, rather than just any old little company?
Yeah, I think, especially because I've always loved the Coral as well, and I looked up to James, at first it was just like, oh wow, it's just amazing to be working with someone that I look up to like this in the music industry. I was just really blown away by that, and then over time it's just good to have someone that knows the industry and has such a good ear for music and can chat to music about. So it's just been great having someone to speak to about everything that is happening.
Now on to the Sheepdogs. They spent many years as an unsigned band before getting their deal. If you're planning to go down the record label route, learning to do everything yourself first may be no bad thing. Ultimately, when you come to pay someone to do all of the things for you, if you are a bigger band, whether that's doing it outright or whether they're just taking a bit of a cut of your profits, you'll have a much better idea of whether you're getting completely ripped off and scammed when you pay people to do things for you, if you've previously done them yourself and you know what's involved. So even if you start to pay people to do some of those things, you can even retain some of them yourself. Here they are.
Well, I think that when we were starting our career, we were still very much under the impression that the goal of a band, in terms of the success, was that you would sign with a label, and that if you were able to do that, then it was sort of like everything was great. Your album would be released in shops, and you'd be on the radio, and you'd have a tour, and you would just be in that world. But it kind of, I think, when we started seriously touring, was about 2006 and 2007, and it's really like, you know, sort of the industry was just kind of reeling from the whole, you know, online, nobody downloads music for, you know, everyone downloads music for free kind of era. And so I think that I would recommend that young bands learn to do as much of what, you know, as they can of sort of the business and the practical side before they entrust somebody to pay to do it, because then you know what needs doing and what has to get done. Because if you don't, you know, you could really be, you know, getting taken for a ride, and Lord knows there's a long history of management and labels and taking artists for their money. But we have since actually gone through an up and down relationship with our management, and now we're self-managed. Ryan, our bass player, has taken on that role.
Oh, really?
And label-wise, we're still with Warner Music in Canada, but we're sort of in the process of potentially looking for new partners outside of Canada.
So how do you actually get noticed by a record company? How do you get your music and you and your song in front of them and in their ears? There's no one single recipe for this. However, one constant ingredient is to ensure that you stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
Jon Newman, who's had a hit or two, if you think about Love Me Again, for example.
Pretty big song.
Pretty big. When he was starting out, he wasn't exactly shy when it came to getting noticed.
They called 19 Entertainment. And they were looking to build a new boy band. It's Simon Fuller's company who did Simon Cowell's ex-partner. And they were building a band called The Wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And I just basically pushed in front of that line. Everyone was like, what are you doing? And at that age, I was like, fuck off. Do you? And then, I just went in and I said to her, look, I generally have no interest whatsoever in being in the boy band. I don't even want to hear about it. I don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I just know that you've got my ticket out of here.
Okay.
So can I play you a tune? And I sat and played her a song, and she was like, I love it. Let me call you after I've dealt with all this.
Yeah.
So then, I got the call, and she said, come down to London. We'd love you to come and meet our head at the management company and everything. And the best thing was, I remember I had this little notebook. I've still got it, right? And this little notebook, I had in it, it said all my notes, everything. I'm a bit LCD in that way. I still do it now. I've got notepads and notepads stacked up of like writings of ideas and everything that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd written in that notebook how the album will be, because I thought that was it. I'd smashed it, and next minute I'd be releasing an album. So I went in her office and I said, right, I'm ready to make the album. Where are we recording it? And she was like, that's not really the idea. And I was like, well, this song's going to be out. And I went through it all. And then she basically kicked me out of the office because she was like, this isn't going to work. He doesn't understand this. He doesn't get this.
Right.
But I remember walking for 6 miles through London with my guitar on my back, nearly crying. And then that's the day that I started making fucking bangers. Like, started making proper tunes. Like, where I was like, well, I'll just do it myself. And then my management picked me up, and then it escalated.
Yeah.
So then Jon, like many others, started learning how to do more things himself. You can catch the full interview with him later in the season to find out about his other side business that he runs. Even the big stars have a plan B, man.
Should always have a plan B.
Very true. This episode has started to look at the pros and cons of having a record label. Even those big stars like a good bit of DIY now and again. We're not talking about putting shelves up here, just to clarify. Take Jimmy of Jimmy Eat World.
Quite unbelievable quality considering there's no microphone set.
You know, like I've recorded like acoustic guitar with my phone. Just kind of like thinking, you know, for on purpose to be like a thing that's like we want kind of not all that great sounding, you know, and just randomly put it on a counter, play sort of in the direction of it, and then, you know, put the audio into like the thing I'm working on. It's like, this is like too good.
Considering how much people spend on kit back in the day.
I mean, I think like I heard something like where the microphone in your phone is like the most expensive thing
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Samsung and Sony used to concentrate a lot on the camera, but Apple just have got great microphones in them.
The audio is really important. It's kind of deceivingly good.
Yeah.
This ties into next week, where we'll be looking at how to release your own music, followed by how to market and promote it.
Whether you enter into a record deal or just stay DIY, there's plenty of legal considerations. Be sure to check out an episode later in this series with Erin Jacobson, fantastic music lawyer from the US.
Sounds like record companies and labels still do have a role to play from what we've heard today, at least for now, it would seem. But they won't be everyone's cup of tea.
Yep.
And there'll always be good deals and there'll be bad deals. So, as ever, if you do have the opportunity to go down that road, do your research.
Take the time. Always take the time.
Additional news snippets from the interviews you've heard today will pop up in other episodes later in the season. And at the end of season 2, we'll release each conversation with all of our guests in full as standalone episodes. As a reminder, if you like the show, please take a few seconds just to give us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts from. It makes a huge difference in helping us grow our audience and promoting the show. Coming up next week, the topic is releasing your own music. How will you release it is often a big question. When you're going to release it is another. You'll hear from a variety of people, including Laurel.
Some people I know are still, they're the same age as me, mid-20s, and they're about to put out their first thing because they've been too scared to put something out beforehand because they want it to be perfect. So there's like varying scales of it. Really glad that I put things out really early.
All of the show notes for today's episode can be found at acpgmusic.com, along with our back catalogue of episodes. If you like what you hear, or perhaps have some improvements or specific guests you'd like us to consider, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at info@acpgmusic.com or hit us up on social media. Keep supporting upcoming artists, and we'll catch you next time.